As we gather today, our country is at war with an invisible enemy. We are marshaling the full power of the American nation, economic, scientific, medical, and military, to vanquish the virus, and we will do that. Today, I'm here to express my profound gratitude to the dedicated service members who will soon be on the front lines of this fight. In a few moments, the crew of the Navy hospital ship USNS Comfort will embark for New York City, where they will join the ranks of tens of thousands of amazing doctors, nurses, and medical professionals who are battling to save American lives. The Comfort sister ship on the West Coast, the USNS Mercy, arrived ahead of schedule substantially in port yesterday. It's performing a similar mission for the people of Los Angeles and the people of California. Among the sailors departing today are some of the finest doctors, nurses, technicians, orderlies, and medical staff anywhere in the world. These are true professionals. And no one performs better under pressure when lives are on the line. These are incredible people. With the courage of our doctors and nurses, with the skill of our scientists and innovators, with the determination of the American people, and with the grace of God, we will win this war, and we will win this war quickly with as little death as possible. The battle in which we're now engaged has inflicted many hardships on our nation and our families. At this moment, there are 151 countries throughout the world that are under attack by this horrible, invisible enemy. We are one family bound together by love and loyalty. I cannot be more thankful to the American people, and I can say this, from the bottom of my heart. I am very proud to be your president. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
My best friend still lives here in Queens, and just to see what this entire city's going through and then how the Navy can come out and support is amazing. We've got such an important mission set in the Navy, and the sailors on this ship, whether they're from New York or whether they're from California, they're here to help.
So when we arrived here in New York, we were told that we were going to be dealing with non-COVID patients. Shortly after arrival, that changed, and we had to adjust. The men and women of engineering were asked where we could establish the best boundaries, how we could reduce accidental contact. Working closely with leadership, specifically the deck department, we established boundaries, transferred them from the drawings onto the actual doorways, ladder wells, to minimize the accidental contact between patient caregivers working with COVID and patient support that have no direct contact with a patient, all of the facility support where my team fits in, so that we would know not to go beyond this point, or when we did, we had to take the appropriate precautions.
This mission calls for a lot of teamwork and a lot of resiliency between each other. I currently hold the role as a transport nurse, so while I still have patients on the ICU, I do leave the unit to go bring the patients on the ship. So this requires my coworkers to cover the watch of my patients while I step off the floor to bring on new patients to the unit.
There were 20 beds in there, and that's a lot for an ICU. Where back home, there's 12 beds in a normal ICU. So when I saw that walking in the door, I was just like, oh, wow.
When this all started happening, where they started closing everything down, my school got shut down for paramedic school. I got about 48-hour notice that they were looking for volunteers, and what better way to really keep up my skills and go help a city in need right now.
Well, my role as an ICU nurse directly impacts the medical mission. Nurses have the most hands-on patient care. Physicians make the decisions, but nurses execute those decisions and are at the bedside 24/7. So I would say all the nurses aboard the USNS Comfort provide a significant role in the medical mission.
As a team, we've had to, for one thing, acquaint ourselves with each other try to figure out the best way to work fluidly. Considering a lot of us have never worked with each other before, they gave us roughly a week to get ready and move out. We try to support each other as best as possible. Everyone's got a different story.
Some of my feelings about being here, I think it's a terrible time for our country, for the world as a whole. There's a lot of people suffering in many realms from, obviously the health and wellness is the biggest crisis, but a lot of people are feeling pain in other ways, whether it's jobs or finances. But being in this environment is also just invigorating. You see the true testament to humanity and selflessness. You see the greatness in people as well here, and people coming together to give of themselves and just help, millions of strangers.
One of our patients that came in was not really sure where she was at. She was scared. She had a bad appendix, and she was getting some IV treatment for that at a hospital, but was moved to us for continuing care. She was an unknown COVID-19, so we placed her in our tent. We explained the process and explained to her that we were going to continue to take care of her, but we needed to know her COVID-19 status to know and determine where to place her on the ship. She was unaware that the ship was here in New York City, and she was very scared about being positive and what was going to happen to her. So I sat down with her and explained everything, and we found out she was negative, so we placed her on the ward that was a negative COVID-19 ward for her to continue to get her IV antibiotics, so then she could hopefully go home soon. And she was thrilled to find out she was negative and was pretty tearful, which, is emotional for us too, because we know they're scared.
To establish the boundaries we keep referring to, it was a team effort where first we had to outline the areas where the doctors and medical people absolutely had to be, and then that eliminated where the rest of us didn't have to be. And by establishing that and taking a boundary up an entire level, we reduced the accidental contact between the caregiver, who may have contact with a COVID patient, and the support team, who really had no need to come in contact with the patients. And by forcing this distance and taking the guidance that everyone's been talking about, and really washing our hands and wearing masks. Mine is in my pocket right now for the interview, but the deck department, led by a third officer, Mr. Nate Grant, he met with myself, the captain, the infectious disease team. He was given his instructions. He built the wall, literally. Got 2x6 lumber, a bunch of screws, erected a barrier, filmed the barrier on both inside and outside with 6 mil plastic, and put signs up. Moving to the next door, which is already in place, we just sealed over the door with 6 mil plastic on each side, and a sign says emergency use only, don't break the boundary. And people to this day have been doing very well in respecting the boundaries that have been established. And I really think that's a lot to do why our numbers within the crew have stayed very, very manageable, very small.
Being in New York City on 9/11, it led me to join the military. Even though I enlisted in the Army and spent 11 years as a combat medic, multiple trips to Afghanistan to try to make the people responsible pay for what they did to New York City on 9/11. And it's bringing everything full circle, coming back to New York City as a Navy nurse in a time when New York City is in a crisis again, and to be able to help the people, the citizens of New York City, and help them out medically as a Navy nurse, since this is my first time back to New York City since I left almost 20 years ago.
I was on a run on top of the ship, and I got a text from my father. He told me my uncle had passed away, so I immediately called the rest of my family to see what was going on, just to check how they're holding up. It's been rough because no one can really check on anyone because everyone's in isolation, and no one wants to make it worse by spreading it to family members. So the virus was real in me, but it got even more real when I found out. The mission doesn't stop just because I'm hurting. My sailors expect me to keep my head up, keep doing what I'm doing.
Staying motivated and staying positive is definitely a core part of what we're doing right now, because you have to keep a positive attitude to keep going. So we are doing whatever we can to motivate each other, remind each other of the mission at hand, that we're here for a greater good and that we are prepared for this. We're listening to music, we're ordering food to the hotel when we can to try to just build that camaraderie and build that morale. It's very easy to get down and be exhausted. We've worked weeks and weeks without a day off, and we're all very tired, but we know that we're accomplishing good here, and the overall mission is to help the people of New York, and we're absolutely happy to be here to do that, and we're happy to be a part of this mission.
It's been a privilege and an honor to work with this great group of people. Our families are at home. We didn't know what we had in front of us. You can't see it. And with a lot of good people, like I said, there's 34 men and women, and they got behind us. They listened, they learned, and we all adapted. We evolved faster than the virus. And now we get to go home.